Waterwight, Book 1, Chapter 13. Led by a tall, sinewy girl of about 18, the group of villagers stopped before reaching the porch. All were quiet. Celeste saw concerned expressions on their faces as they looked at her, the disheveled new girl with the enormous green frog by her side. Nick said it was okay, Blanche, Chimney announced. Good night. The girl dismissed the others to their respective homes. The crowd of about 50 young people dispersed as noiselessly as they had arrived. Celeste noticed how they separated themselves by race, just as Orville had told her they would. I found him when I was gathering, Chimney said, as if it were an everyday occurrence. And look at all the snoodles I got. He opened his sack, and the younger children who lived in the house ran up the stairs to grab one from the bunch. Celeste awaited Blanche's next move and hoped she wouldn't have to recount the whole fabricated tale of how she and her hunter frog had stumbled upon their community. You must be tired, Blanche said on her way up the steps. She sounded nonchalant. I'm assuming your frog will be okay alone. There's water in the bird bath, and he can stay in the courtyard tonight. It's protected. Jack, take that thing. His name's Orville, Celeste broke in. Things were moving too quickly. She looked at Orville apologetically, but sensed he was all right with Blanche's directive. Take Orville around back. You follow me, she told Celeste. Jack, who appeared to be about 7, was dressed in rumpled black clothes, matching his disheveled hair. He signaled Orville to follow him. Blanche brushed past Celeste to the door. Looking over her shoulder to the others who waited to enter the house, Celeste wondered when, or if, she might be introduced. They hadn't even asked her name yet. She noticed another girl of about 16 holding onto the arm of an older teenage boy as they approached the porch. She had a gentle spirit about her, but didn't seem to acknowledge Celeste's presence. She also appeared to have brown skin, so it was a surprise when she entered Blanche's house. Most of the others were Chimney's age and younger, and they moved away quickly when the gentle girl passed by them. They ate their snoodles while staring at Celeste until she followed Blanche into the house. This way, said Blanche, walking to the second floor of the house. You can clean up in the morning. Celeste followed Blanche to the end of the hall and up some creaky wooden stairs to a tiny attic room. You can stay here. Blanche didn't stay to chat. She slammed the narrow door on her way out, leaving Celeste in darkness. Good night to you, too, Celeste mumbled, dropping her pack with a thud. She wondered if the sullen girl had slammed the door purposefully. As she had done in her first hideaway in the house on the other side, she stood still, eyes wide, until she could recognize objects in the room. Her eyes adjusted immediately, and she discovered she could see perfectly well despite the blackness of the unlit space. She shuffled to the bed against the far wall, under a small slatted window, and flopped down. She was happy to be in a room alone at the top of the house, though she was concerned about her friend. Peeking out the window to the wire-enclosed yard below, she saw Orville's bulging eyes looking up at her. They said he would be safe in the cage-like yard, but Celeste was not convinced. I will be all right, she heard him say, but she didn't see him speak. How? Shh, he warned, and Celeste was startled by how clearly she could see him below in the dark night. As I spoke to you in your dream, so can I speak to you when you are awake in your mind. I did not want to tell you before you were ready, but now you must know. When I heard you in my mind and shared your frightening dreams, I heard your name as well. Your power to communicate has matured quickly. It will be safer this way. No one must see or hear us talking. Celeste knew he was right, but did that mean Orville would have free access to all of her thoughts? She owed the frog her life, but the idea troubled her. I sense your concern, ma petite, but do not fear. I can hear you only when you wish me to, and when you are in trouble. Remember, this is new for me as well. Celeste pulled away from the window. It seems like everything's new for me, she thought, practicing her ability to communicate with Orville speechlessly. It worked. Yes, the newness will grow old in time. You should sleep now. She heard his words in her mind. Tomorrow we will learn more about these people and what they are doing to survive. Celeste listened to the nighttime noises of the household below as everyone settled in, and about an hour later she heard the front door close. She recognized Nick's voice immediately. He was talking with Blanche. He sounded frustrated and she sounded angry. The conversation didn't last long. Celeste felt guilty that the boy with the mysterious power was in trouble for an action he took to help her. Anxious about what to expect the next morning, Celeste was fidgety despite her fatigue. The snoodle had also reminded her how hungry she was. She found a few more stale crackers in the creases of her pack and felt the need to write again in her diary. As soon as she removed the small bag from her pack, she panicked. Her name tag was missing from the outside pocket. She dumped the contents of the pack onto the floor and searched among the few remaining cans of food and articles of clothing. What is it? She heard Orville's voice in her mind. My name tag, the one with my real name. It's gone. I had it on the island. Why didn't I scratch it out? What if someone finds it? Calm yourself, ma petite. His voice was comforting. It has probably washed away by now in the big water. Nevertheless, I do not sleep and will be ever watchful for the malicious one. What do you mean you don't sleep? Celeste could only imagine how exhausted he had to be from his ceaseless labors since rescuing her. One of the unfortunate changes that happened to me when I washed up on this strange shore was all the explanation he provided. Once again, Celeste considered how little she knew about her faithful companion. She vowed she would do everything in her power to protect him as he had protected her, and was reassured when he didn't respond to her thought. Thank you, my friend, and good night. Bonne nuit, she heard in her mind. With nothing she could do about the missing name tag, Celeste sat on the floor, her back against the bed, and opened her diary. There was no way she could report all that had happened since her last entry, and she wondered how safe it was to report anything personal. She decided to play it safe. For the first time since writing in her diary, she tore out her last entry, and after rereading the poems from the cats and the shifter, tore those out as well. She scribbled over them all before shredding them as finely as she could. If someone wanted to read her diary, they'd find themselves bored by the mundane musings about the weather. She wrote about her fictional journey with Orville from the other side of Artesia, a name for the island that came to her when trying to outwit Nick. Water from artesian wells had been popular when she was a child, back when water was not a thing to be feared. Hoping Orville and I have found a new home. Our journey across Artesia was long, and we're very tired. Nice people have welcomed us, Nick and Blanche and their gatherer, Chimney, and I hope to teach here as I taught in our old village. I want to cry when I think about my old home being oozed out. I hope the others will be safe. She closed and locked the book, suppressing tears when she thought of her real home's disappearance. She needed to focus on crafting a new life. Draping her jacket over a chair and pulling the tangled scarf from her dirty hair, she wondered how she must have looked standing on the porch when the villagers returned from their ritual. She was embarrassed when she considered what Nick must have thought. Pipsqueak, he had called her, but for some reason she wasn't offended. Her thoughts spun around until she was dizzy. Unlike the clinical building in which she'd spent the past several years, there appeared to be a real community here, and there were boys. Despite her excitement, Celeste had to sleep, and unlike nighttime at the children's home, where she dreaded closing her eyes, she welcomed sleep in the anticipation of waking to a day that would probably be anything but mundane. Celeste flew over the big water, Orville by her side. In the distance, Old Man Massive smiled. Two people stood at the top of the precipice above him, waving to her, and although she couldn't see their faces, she recognized them as her parents. She was almost within reach when the scenery changed, and she was standing by the water's edge, ready to do something dreadful, something she didn't want to do. And then the tantalizing word melody filled the air. That ends chapter 3 of book 1.